Hey friends, what's going on? We are live today, Saturday. This is going to be a fairly focused live stream with an intent of talking about wood types, wood choices, speaker designs, and speaker choices, speaker design choices for the sake of ideal results. This was inspired by a previous review by a YouTube channel creator, which I will showcase, talk about all of that, talk about sort of why I wanted to do this, and not as a poke or as a correction. It's not a correction at all. I believe the review did exactly what it was supposed to do. Nothing about it was incorrect. I felt that maybe there was something about it that I didn't have answered. So I thought maybe other people might find it interesting and want these answers as well. So I thought to do this as a deep dive on a specific topic. Therein, the like something about the review or the showcase wasn't complete in my mind. So I wanted to bring this on and just kind of talk about this thing that I noticed that wasn't completely explained. And that is wood types or choices. Now, let me just bring on where it started and then I'll go from there. So let's see. This is the this is the post and the review that I was talking about. And this is the brand that we'll be talking about. It's Epos Sound. The review here or showcase by HiFi Huff, Steve himself. Did a good job. I like Steve's channel. I respect him. So this isn't really like I said, it's not a correction. It's not a, hey, you did a bad job. It's nothing like that at all. This is just a matter of my finding my own answers based on something that I see here. The thing that I see here that caught my attention, which is in the thumbnail, is other than the stunning design and feature looking speakers that are here, is the claim or the statement that it's 1200 years old. I thought, okay, I know a little bit about how they're made because I followed Epo Sound for a number of years. And I wanted to find out more about what's this 1200 years about. And more specifically for me is why is that significant? Why is 1200 years written here on the thumbnail that, how old something is significant? And give me a moment here as I double check my audio. I want to make sure that my live stream is coming through without any problems. I don't see any comments yet in the section. So I want to make sure that my audio is not all messed up. So let me go over to YouTube here. I should have a laptop to check my own material, but I don't yet. Forgive me while I check out the sound. Okay, so that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so the sound is good. My microphone is good. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Okay, so continuing on here, I don't want to play Steve's video in its entirety. There's some ads here. So what I want to do is just talk about the this is what the 1200 years refers to as this is made and inlaid with wood that is aged at 1200 years old. The reason why I asked the question why in a thumbnail is 1200 years showcased as a significant property because other brands like Acora Acoustics and Fisher and a number of other brands that make their speakers out of slate or granite, or some speakers have concrete that are made. Um, a lot of these materials in general, just as a fact, the metals that are included in the speaker baskets and even the screws and the aluminum and all this other material that's around the speaker is arguably older than 1200 years. I mean, we don't know how old some of the other materials are. So I saw the post, I saw the quote, or I guess the caption of 1200 years about the wood. And I thought, well, why is 1200 years about the wood significant in this case where other designs and manufacturers with other types of materials have much older, it could be millions of years old in some cases, some of the metals and, the way the earth materials work. So I wasn't really sure how that was significant. And in the review, there wasn't a lot said about it. There is a post, I think in the beginning of the video, he brought up a small document that showcased the age of the wood. And here it is right here. So very briefly brought up this document, which I have a copy of. That's this document here that I was sent to by Adam at EPO Sound to further talk about this this thing here. So actually, you don't need to see my face. This is a lab report talking about the age, the proposed age of the wood. Let me see. It says, I think this is the year of the falling of the wood. So I have to be specific here. Hello, Mirage. What's going on? Thank you for joining and watching today. I need to be specific about this. This is the sample analyzed represents an oak tree growing about 900 years ago. So if the tree had lived for 200 years ish, 200 or 300 years, and it lived its natural life and then fell 900 years ago, then that would create the 1200 years that we're talking about. The reason why it's significant is more or less here. It says the change of color natural to brownish black was caused by chemical reactions between iron compounds present in the water and the tannin from the wood. So this is a sample of wood that had fell in the forests around Poland. I have other documents here talking about more. I actually wanted to this one. I'm not sure if this is where, but I looked up as much as I could about the forests and certain areas. This is probably more specific, like a protected site. But what happens is when these sample woods, or when the woods that are used in this particular model, because it's unique, and these speakers are designed more of like a limited run, from what I understand. The samples of wood are taken from a specific area, from fallen trees that have undergone this treatment, so their composition changes. It's not just a natural wood. It is a natural wood. It had grown and had fallen and had been not petrified. I hesitate to use the word petrified because I don't believe it's the same process, but something of the sort. Some process had changed as it's in the ground or on the ground or buried in the ground or in certain waters. The wood changes over time and gives us this black color, which looks gorgeous in this model. The inlaid wood and the combination of the red epoxy is just stunning. I can't think of anything more brilliant than that. Again, I've seen EPO Sound on Instagram and their products for a long while, and I was always fascinated with the idea of including epoxy resins, and natural woods to create these colorful sort of results. Again, I've followed along for quite a while. There's multiple colors here. There's some in green as well that I saw at some point. So this is just from the website itself. There are other brand, not other brand, but other models, bookshelf models. I believe Steve himself thought that he would end up with one of these perhaps, but the one with the black wood here is very special in the sense that it uses this black oak. So aside from the laboratory results showing certain details, age probabilities, that kind of thing, this is basically just like an age history of the wood. I got this document here, which basically talks about why it's more special, why it was chosen by Adam from EpoSound to be included in this model. Now, I'm not all that great at reading out loud, but what I will do is try to blow this up as best as I can so people online can read it there. So black wood dates from the times of the Slavic folklore and witnessed many wars and religious changes. So this, like many woods and trees of significant age, they hold records, much like ice layers hold records of our earthly changes. So in that sense, having a wood source, it's special for other reasons other than just acoustic properties. That's the answer that I wanted from the idea of 1200 years, because it's showcased in the thumbnail as we saw from the video. The titles, one of a kinds hi-fi speakers from Poland, are built with 1200-year-old black oak, stunning. And he's not wrong. They're absolutely beautiful. And you can go ahead and watch Steve's whole video if you want to get more information about what he says. His review in terms of their sound and performance is quite good. But in this sense, I want to read this bottom part. It says, "What if the old tree could sing again, perhaps even for you?" Which is the included sort of sentiment of using wood that's fallen this way and changed over time and brings its history into a hi-fi system. It says, "My name is Adam. I've been living in the forest surrounded by beautiful trees. Sometimes on my walks with my children, we are trying to guess what the trees and winds are talking about," which is very spiritual. It's a wonderful idea. "I live close to nature, which has always inspired me. When I built my house, I found joy in working with wood, and I decided to create something beautiful and unique with my hands. This idea led me to this black oak. The black oak intrigued and enchanted me from the first sight, and I bought it without knowing its real age. When the carbon dating certificate was delivered," which is the document we were looking at before, that's this one. Carbon dating certificate was delivered, I knew I had to save it from oblivion, to go to waste or just to leave it in the ground. Please enjoy this one-of-a-kind set of columns speakers, which are made of over 1,000-year-old oak and epoxy, combining the old tree with the modern world," which is really cool to see epoxy and resin used in speakers, because you typically don't see modern materials like that used in anything. I mean, even drums and snare drums and things like that, these materials and plastics are not used for instruments because of certain resonant properties and acoustic properties, which I want to go into later. The combination of the two in such a way really gives these speakers an acoustic character beyond the lore, beyond the spirituality, just in their physical nature. Their vibration signature, their resonant signature is going to be unique because of the different areas and the different amount of wood and things that it's used. So I want to go into that a little bit afterwards. Kind of columns, which are made of over 1,000 years oak and epoxy, combining the old with the modern world. I'm proud of this beautiful one-of-a-kind product. Each set will be unique and special. The old oak will be able to continue to sing. Perhaps you may hear whispers of ancient secrets," which is some of the lore that's included in this section here. Now, if you want to capture it, screenshot it, read it later, read it back, pause this video later on, go for it. I welcome you to do so. This is the name of the speaker. All their description is here. I will leave on screen for a moment. We see True Voice of Reasons here. What's going on? Finishing up the store. Will join shortly. Thank you. Black Oak, the jokes are too easy. Yeah, I didn't see that joke coming, but I know where you're leaning. Hey, listen, this isn't quite a family channel, and you know that I'm open to humor, but let's leave it till the dessert phase, okay? Let's focus up here. It's funny. Ah, my friends are the best. So when building our Millennium columns, they're calling them. So this is red Millennium black oak. Um, the epoxy resin to give the column extraordinary depth and attractive appearance. We use the techniques embedded wood in transparent epoxy, well, semi-transparent because the red you can't really see through the whole thing. It is kind of translucent from inside. Innovative technology allows you to create three-dimensional effect and heights and that's true. The epoxy does give a really, really cool finish. I wish there was a close-up that I can get, but these images don't blow up any further. Let's close this one, this one. So that's the speaker model that's on the website. There's more details on the website if you want to have a look at that. So the speakers are just beautiful. And they are absolutely. When I saw the bookshelves of different colors, the blue really captured my attention. Blue color is very unique. I mean, this is using different types of woods, different slabs. Their building technique and other details can be found on their Instagram accounts. These are more modern woods. I assume that their properties are monitored, and I know that using natural woods is not normal in hi-fi design. Now, if I can just step aside, what I want to do is actually go over this website. I just Googled really quickly. So, what are the acoustic properties of wood? Because we're talking about a source of wood. I didn't even turn on my light. Damn. There we go. um, we're talking about a source of wood that's 1,200 years old, that's gone through a process that's changed its properties, not just its color, but I imagine it's got other properties like the natural wood products that are used in Sonus Faber, and Nick at Black Ocean Audio also uses these dried or dried walnut pieces for natural woods. Bucart Audio also uses natural woods now in their most recent speakers, the A10 and the E50 that are coming out. They're not typically used because the predictability of natural woods and the way that the grains and certain things can warp and shift over time, it's not as predictable or hasn't been as predictable up until recently. Now, using thinner strips, the drying process, certain glue, certain processes have changed so that these brands can create with natural woods and retain the kind of sound signature that they want. Obviously, musical instruments are used with wood, and they're always under controlled environments like your humidity levels, protections. You can't leave them in the sun. If you have like a violin or a cello or pianos to some degree, but they have like a cast metal basket or whatever frame for the strings inside. Wooden instruments are always subject to moisture changes because natural wood has this porous and structure that allows the environment to affect how it works. So natural woods on their own are typically not used in speaker development or design, and you've had this progression of different developments in their design over time. Now I don't have a slide for that, but it moves from stuff like particle board to MDF, now HDF, and now there's other types of materials that are creeping into certain areas. They're using aluminum for framing. A lot of the other brands like Estalon and a few others are using epoxies and like synthetic marbles. Acora Acoustics obviously uses slabs of granite and marble in their full form. I mentioned Fisher and Fisher have slate finishes. There's combinations of each. There's some that make their speakers out of like really large chunks of concrete. Now the new Sonus Fabers have concrete bases. So there's always been combinations of materials, but no full natural wood panels because of their tendency to warp and change and be affected by the environmental factors. Even brands that are using real wood veneers will veneer the inside and outside of some cabinets and finish the inside and outside so that moisture doesn't affect the inside or outside of the cabinet. If it isn't completely sealed and it's a ported enclosure, then moisture is going to get inside the cabinet and can affect it from the inside. So there's a lot of considerations there for designing and making a speaker do what it's supposed to do with longevity in mind. Now, this little blurb here basically is like, for centuries, wood has been considered a material with unique acoustic performance because it does resonate. It is able to move with sound and pressures and changes. I don't want to go into the physics and how that's possible, but you can figure that out. This is why wood is frequently used to make musical instrument and build performance spaces. That's the same with amphitheaters, stages, places where pianos will be sitting on a stage that is made from wood. The stage itself then becomes an amplifier to the piano. You can look up that. There's certain Steinway pianos in theaters where the piano only goes in one location, where the stage is built a certain way to accommodate for what they're performing. This isn't specific to HiFi itself, but I wanted to just highlight some of these points where wood does take on a certain property and it needs to be accounted for. Now, I was talking earlier about, I lost my thought there. I think I closed one of the tabs by accident. I'm just going to use Steve's video because he's the one that inspired me to do this, really. What I was talking about was the idea of building speaker cabinets with different materials because of their resonant properties. Now, most modern designs use a bracing of some kind because a large panel will have a resonant frequency that will affect and color the sound, and that's something that most designers don't want to have happen. The drivers themselves are manufactured in such a way to perform with a controlled output. And if you put a driver that vibrates into a cabinet that also vibrates, you can have constructive or destructive resonant frequencies in the cabinet. Now, with EPO Sound, how they're able to use an epoxy resin with natural woods in this kind of uniformed way, I have to wonder, because I've seen like accelerometer measurements and clipple measurements done on cabinets, and I haven't seen anything in the way of bracings, internal structure, how any of the cabinet resonances are controlled. If each of the cabinets is unique, is there a specific ratio of like wood to epoxy that's used? How is this process developed? I would love to get more information about this, but this is why when I see a claim or I see a caption of 1200 years old, when I know the granite in Akora Acoustics has got to be thousands of years older than that. Why is the 1200 significant? But now I realize the wood, the same way the granite would be in certain areas, granite's not alive. So that's the lure, I guess, is the trees were once alive at times when religion and areas and wars and things like that had changed in the area. So they were alive and literally breathing at the same time that human beings were in these transitions. So it creates this whole other kind of dynamic and what you're inviting into your space. Now, MDF is obviously basically just a wood powder compressed with heat and glue, and it's shaped to maintain a uniform, more predictable material. HDF the same, probably denser glue. I'm not sure how HDF and MDF is different, higher compression maybe. I've never looked into how either one are made. One of them's just heavier, more dense, I would say. Neil K is saying some speakers don't use bracing at all, like Totem. I think they treat their cabinets with borosilicate, which is like, I guess that's a stiffening agent in the woods themselves. Now, if you can make your own MDF or fiber board with some sort of like what would you call it, impregnated I hate using that word with technologies, but that's literally what it's called. It's injected or mixed with another type of material. And yes, I mean, Totem makes like even their drivers and the way that the tune their acoustics in general is different from most other brands. That's how they can be very immediate and transparent and project sound in such a way with such small drivers, but having such incredible output. So that's a good point that some speakers don't use bracing. And even with some of the natural woods, that like there's a lot of speaker option design choices. That's why I wanted to do this live stream to talk about the idea of the wood being 1200 years old has other sort of like sentimental, spiritual significance, social significance, and that it was claimed from oblivion, as Adam put it, to be used in a speaker to tell their story. This is a thought process as a designer he wanted to bring to life, and that's why the 1200 years. 1200 years isn't significant in and of itself because the metals used in the basket and the magnets and the iron are millions of years old. You know, the planet has been here for a long time. So the metals themselves that were extracted from the ground are significantly older. The significant part is the story behind where the trees are, the process they had undergone, and while they were alive and breathing and a lot like assisting human beings on this planet, because trees do that for us, their life at that time and through that time adds a significant and unique value to the speaker itself. Now, I don't know how old the walnut trees are in Sonus Faber speakers. I have no idea what the age of them is. Like in other brands that use real woods, Buchart doesn't talk about it. My buddy at Black Ocean Audio never talks about how old the trees are. Nobody does this analysis for these trees, but this is a unique scenario where these trees are like gone through this process, not this petrified, but this certain process. And that's something that Adam at Epo Sound wanted to call attention to. And it's the answer to my why is it significant in the video. So after sending the email and after reading some of this information, I understand more about the sentimentality built into these speakers and why it's unique. What kind of a story can these tell? It is very fascinating, and I'm glad that I was able to answer my own question. Now, it's not to say that, like I said, there's anything wrong or off about, Steve's review. I think he did a great job at showcasing them. He certainly has very steady camera work. I like his lighting, his room. He talks about really good sound properties. He tests with a lot of gear. Again, I don't want to use his video and get copyright or have him upset at all, but he did a great job and it made me curious. And now that I've looked into it, I wanted to share more about what I discovered and the answers that I got from Adam at Epo Sound about these speakers and why the 1200 years is significant. And I hope that I've done these speakers and this brand justice by describing how special and how unique this speaker is, how this design, this combination of resin, epoxy resin, and real woods brings this different kind of character. If not anything at all, these fall into that hi-fi jewelry category where they're so unique and special that nothing else in this world will be like this, will look like this, will have this character. It's the only thing like it. It's the only brand I know doing anything like this. So if you want something really special and you want something that performs this way, then obviously the Epo Sound's options are amazing. I mean, I think it would be one level further to like have the bookshelves paired with a subwoofer of this kind. I don't know what the limitations are with the epoxy resin and the wood, and if you can make larger panels, because some of these are relatively small. They're thin and narrow. They're very sort of European looking. It's very high quality drivers. I remember these from like when I was very young. I don't remember what they are exactly, but I remember this from a long time ago looking at this style. It reminds me of very early Sonus Faber drivers, maybe a ScanSpeak sort of, but I can't speak to exactly what they are. But high quality components combined with, I assume that these the wood treatments and the cabinet itself has undergone some testing in order to be the right ratio. Like I said earlier, if you have natural woods and epoxy, what's the ratio between the two that gives the most ideal and controlled or predictable uh, acoustic performance? I don't know. I'm not a designer myself. I just understand acoustic properties and the combinations of some of these things that give us the result we're looking for. So, I mean, kudos to Steve. I'm glad to see Epo Sound getting that kind of reach. Steve's up to like over 143,000 subscribers now. So I'm really glad to see that this has gotten a lot of views, 25K in 2 days. So kudos to him. Thanks to Adam for sending me the emails. I want to thank everybody here today. Thank you for sending in any kind of messages, joining me on my channel, my lives. I appreciate my friends being here to support what I'm doing. I'm going to keep this video relatively short. I came and did what I chose to, what I intended to do. I wanted to showcase a little bit more about the wood choices and the wood properties that go into speaker design and how they're managed, whether they're flat panels and bracing, whether they're curved to reduce the internal resonance, whether they're using something like cork now, which Sonus Faber is using in their Sonetto and Suprema lines, and their concerto line, their revamped concerto line. It's very fascinating the different things that people choose to use, designers choose to use in their speaker designs, whether it's, like I said, flat panels, bracing, curves, angles, whether it's ported, vented, sealed, passive radiators of all different kinds. Every one of these design choices and shapes has an effect on the sound, as well as other electrical components and driver choices. So the 1200 years, to recap, is speaking to this sort of spiritual and sentimentality that Adam at Epo Sound had felt and considered in the options to make something unique. I mean, every designer's got to compete in the industry to do something. And I believe that his choice to do epoxy resin and old woods like this from a local forest is a way to be sustainable. He's not cutting down new trees. He's using trees that have been in the ground and treated naturally for thousands of years. So I think that's a very good choice. I do give him a lot of respect, and I have always enjoyed seeing the designs online. So I think that's really, really cool. And now I have the answers that I sought to get, why the 1200 years is significant. And I hopefully everybody sees the points that I was trying to make here. Thanks for sharing. Very interesting. Thank you, Mirage, for being here. True Voice of Reason, thanks for being here. Yeah, I'm going to keep it short, and that'll be the end of the stream in terms of what I wanted to talk about today. And if, unless anybody's got any more questions in the next couple of minutes, and we can talk about that. Otherwise, I'm satisfied, and I'm curious, and I'm interested to hear maybe what they sound like at some point. Maybe I can get my hands on them, or I can visit Europe for like to go and hear some of these hi-fi shows that they have. That would be really, really great. But otherwise, you'll hear from me next weekend, where I will be at Montreal Audio Fest. The show will be running from the 27th to the 29th, 27, 28, 29. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday next weekend. I will be there. I will be covering as much as I can. I don't know how many live videos or shows I'll be able to do. I have a show report to do, photos and videos as always for a PMA magazine. Let's see, True Voice of Reason points on the wood, 1200 years old, maybe historical, but it probably is imitating the force on the grain of wood. Usually old woods are prized for their grain. Yeah, I'm curious what the chemical changes and the turning black really does for the wood. Like if it's a type of wood that's an oak, how different is it from after this process? How different is it acoustically to a recently fallen tree? You know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering how that works. It does make me curious, because the goals of an acoustic designer or a speaker designer is to, obviously you want to attract and make something beautiful, but at the same time, it's got to sound good. Otherwise, it's defeating its own purpose. There's a lot of stuff out there that can look flashy and just be put in a room, but if it doesn't sound good, it's not really doing what it's designed for. So infusing is another good word instead of what I was using before. Thank you. And additionally, infusing the wood with epoxy, etc., is an attempt to either fill in the gaps or make the wood even more inert. Yes, so it does bind it together, and instead of using a whole panel, you're mixing it with this other sort of harder material. Yeah, and I'm wondering how the vibrations like carry across the panel overall. Like I would like to see accelerometer sort of measurements of like what that does. Also, because each one of them is unique and different and using different panels, how are they matched? How does each speaker pair to itself? Or like, are they matched pairs, or how is that sort of ratio controlled? It's just interesting stuff. I think it actually looks really, really cool. If you're not being hypercritical audiophile, so that everything has to be scientifically exact, then I think that having something like that would be incredible in a space. Nothing else is ever going to look like it. Most of them are like this, just black boxes with a vinyl wrap or plastic on the outside. Doesn't mean there's no significant meaning in it at all. But those obviously have a significant meaning, so it's pretty cool. So anyways, I am going to get out of here. Thank you guys. I don't know why I look like Richard Nixon. I don't buy epoxy speakers. I haven't ever, but I probably would. I think they look super cool. Anyways, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Have a good Sunday. Treat yourself well. I will see you at Montreal Audio Fest next weekend. Thanks for joining the channel, joining the live. Hopefully this stream answers what it's set out to answer. And if there's any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll see you all next time. Take care of yourselves.